Okay, we're connected and we are on. Wicked. Yes. So, Tuesday happened, and because in a couple of the YouTube comments, specifically one, with one of my previous videos, someone mentioned that all the speech sounded a lot quieter than the background ambient music and sound effects. So I took the daring plunge to actually attack the audio mixer capabilities of my streaming app, XSplit Broadcaster, and thought that I had solved it. Tuesday, of course, disabused me of that notion, as it was just basically 3 hours and 2 minutes of anybody who was watching the stream or who later watched the YouTube video watching me talk to empty air, responding to voices nobody else but me could hear. So yeah, I basically edited together a little intro sequence where I had my head on my hands going, I'm sorry, I messed up. So hopefully this will be different. But so far the test has been successful, so it's looking good. So, greetings, my dudes. To a change in two aspects. One, hopefully better sound balancing. Two, we're starting with 2nd edition Star Trek Adventures rules. The nuances of which I will get onto in just a moment, but before I do that, I just want to throw us into our intro video. And of course, a certain somebody has got a channel to plug, not just me. So I am going to quickly throw us into our intro video, and we will be back in a moment. Excuse us, folks. Hello, folks, and welcome to the ongoing adventures of the USS Combs. I am MJ the GM, and I will be your games master for the next couple of hours. And with me are the majority of the Combs crew. We are sadly without our chief engineer at the moment, but Dave is currently in a field somewhere, no doubt enjoying himself, pretending to be an entirely different character from the one he plays with us. So we'll hopefully have him back next time. But of course, we have some important changes to get to. But before we do, Chris, take it away. The Utter Crisp.
Hello. So same as usual for me, really. I have my YouTube channel, The Utter Crisp, with my Having a Mosey series. I've sort of managed to get back into editing the next video after taking a bit of a break this year. So yeah, the Yakuza 0 video should now be right around the corner, really. So just keep your eyes peeled on that one. And that's me.
Cool. Still videos there to check out if you want to check them out, folks. Here's the channel right in front of you if you want to see it, and there's the URL if you can see it. If not, it's right by there. Okay, cool beans. Let's get to the important stuff, which is our switch over to using 2nd edition rules. Now, couple of things worth noting. The primary thing that I want to note is I introduced the idea not long ago, before the switch over, that I would like you guys to keep a running character log as your character goes through episodes, specifically, especially noting down when you use values. Now, almost always the use of values goes into the use of spending points of determination. That's still the case now, but we still need to definitely keep track of values now, because they become important to character development. So the whole milestones system has changed and is now inextricably linked to your character's values. And in that regard, I'm going to bring up Dr. Sott's character sheet. Folks should notice that everyone still has the same maximum of 3 determination points to your pool, but now you don't start with all of them. You only start with 1. The idea being that, in a very similar fashion to anybody who's played the role-playing game Fate, which Star Trek Adventures does borrow 1 or 2 things from. In order to, I mean, in Fate it's like story points, but or milestone points, or character points, I forget what they're called, but in this case it's determination points. If you want to gain a determination point, you're encouraged to use one of your values to make life more difficult for yourself in a scene, as a result of this value coming to the fore in some fashion. And if we can properly justify it, in that sense, that this value is going to cause your character some negative impact of some sort, that's how we gain and can regain determination points. So, the first thing, I mean, having had a look over your characters, you're actually in not a bad position. But each of your characters should, ideally, have at least 1 value that can get them into trouble. So, the first thing I would like folks to do is basically look over the list of values once again, and try to make sure that you have got at least 1 that you think you can use in a situation to make things difficult for yourself. Just looking now, I'm looking at Flesk. Can't walk away is a good one. Always a good one to employ as a means of, you know, can't let things go. Can't walk away from either friends, can't walk away from certain situations. That can be used very nicely to make things difficult for himself. For Dr. Sott, I mean, compassion, that's maybe the one thing that makes it. Compassion can be definitely used against Dr. Sott if he feels he has to act as a result of somebody else's suffering. Always there to lend a hand could be problematic sometimes, but with a little bit of work. People person can definitely be used against him as well. With regards to Gurkow, I mean, sticking it to the man can always be a very good value to make things difficult for yourself, but so can Risk Taker. And Eco Warrior too, especially if Gurkow's in a situation where she sees something in the natural environment is being harmed and therefore feels has to act, could bring all sorts of trouble for us. So as long as folks have got at least 1 value that can be used to make things interesting for them. The good thing about this group is I think pretty much everybody does. Bonnet, our newest character, which Liz of course is using to fill in the time that Traza is not with the Combs crew. Fast and Furious could be a good one. If it ain't broke, improve it anyway. Could bring you at odds with like engineers and stuff. So far I think we're pretty good on values being able to be used to cause issues. Looking back at Traza, of course, leave no one behind. Never back down is a really good one as a value that could get you into trouble. In a similar fashion to Flesk's Can't Walk Away. Looking at Tavish, well, What do we need to say about Tavish? Tavish knows how to get into trouble, so I'm pretty sure any of those could be used pretty convincingly. So, for the time being, you guys should still have your personal log in your character notes section, where if a value comes up, excuse me, during the course of an episode, either positively or negatively, it should really be noted in your character log, in your personal log. As a result, to make it easier to reference, I will reference the episode number, in this case it's going to be episode 18, which is called A Bridge to Everywhere. I can also reference the star date if you want to keep it in character, which I will put in Foundry. No, 50044.5. That's our current star date. However you want to note down that this value occurred during the course of this episode in some fashion, please do so. Because, like I said, the milestone system has changed. It's no longer your attendance in an episode that will count towards how big a change you can make to your character. It now becomes very much tied to the progression of your character using their values or having their values come up during episodes, to the point where I don't want to get too much into this, but there is going to be a what's called a callback, where if you can make a reference that because this value X occurred in episode, let's say, 9, and is now influencing how my character is acting, and also allowing me to draw from my determination, that could be very much marked down as a callback. And as a callback to a previous episode, it's showing like a character arc, and that will be what gives you the biggest bump in being able to change some of your character's characteristics. So, the main thrust of this rather long introduction is keep track of your values. So whenever you think a value comes up, for maybe just role-playing purposes, or will affect your character in some way, make a note of it in your personal log. If it's being used as an excuse to draw upon your determination, make a note of it, and maybe even the circumstances with which it was brought up. To this end, this is where my putting these into YouTube videos actually becomes very handy, because now the YouTube channel is an archive of your adventures, and if you wanted to, you could use that to go back and check when certain values could have been brought up, or at the very least you could just read the summary of the episode and think, oh yeah, it was that episode, and therefore you would have the episode number and the episode name that you could then use to refer back to. So hey, justification's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Modiphius, for justifying the presence of my YouTube channel. So that's the big thing. That's the big thing, is your character's values. So, moving on to the next change. Bit of a minor one. Talents. Talents have, for the most part, stuck with the same names and the same kind of mechanics. Not all of them, but for the most part, the vast majority of the talents you had from first edition have carried over to second edition. You will all also be very enthused to know that the awards are still there, and Legion of Honor works just the same as it did in the previous edition.
Beautiful.
The parachute talent, as I call it. So if you've got Legion of Honor, if you've got Star Cross, if you've got the Starfleet Medal of Honor, all those things, you do still have them, and the majority of them work in the exact same fashion they did before. Some bits have had to be changed because of some changes they made to the second edition. Namely, there are no more challenge dice. So there's no more rolling of challenge dice. That's been completely replaced. So when it comes to things like weapon damage, if you look in your belongings section on your character sheet, you should see that your weapons and things like unarmed strikes and whatnot have got a set damage value now. That doesn't change. All unarmed strikes are 2 damage. A batleth as a heavy blade does, or as a standard blade does, X damage. A phaser, a type 1 phaser does X damage, a type 2 phaser does X damage, and so on and so forth. Everything now has a set value. But you can still do things like spend momentum to increase the amount of damage weapons do, or the intensity of certain things. So there's going to be a lot more emphasis now on spending and, of course, recapturing momentum. In that regard, momentum works the same as it did before. Yes, sorry.
So for veteran, instead of the challenge dice, you roll a d20. If you roll equal or less than your control rate,
Yes, which makes
you get to keep
sense.
it.
Yes, exactly. So they've only tweaked it slightly. So anything that needed a roll of challenge dice has now been amended so it does something completely different. I believe another good example... what was it? Yeah, so hands-on pilot as a talent has definitely changed. It's not quite the same as it was before. By saying that the dice that the ship is rolling is definitely a 1. It's different now. That has changed. So 1 or 2 of your talents may have altered, so it's worth checking them over to see which ones have actually changed. But
It still says it at least doubles the critical range.
Yeah. So they still offer advantages, they just may not work in precisely the same manner that they did before. But there is one thing I want to point out, in that you guys have now got more talents, because every species has now been given a species ability. So in Flesk's case, because he's denobulan, he's got the breadth of study. In Gurkow's case, as a Tellarite, she has got sturdy. And the one that makes me laugh, because it's almost definitely the guys at Modiphius Games trolling us, the human talent is called Faith of the Heart.
Beautiful.
The Klingon one makes me happy.
Yes. So Braklul is now the standard Klingon species ability. People still have access to species talents. So in regards to the Klingons, because Braklul is no longer a talent, it's the species of benefit. Klingons now have Warrior's Spirit, which was there before, but they need to get a new one, which I think was Killer's Instinct. I think humans still have Resolute, which is the one that gives them extra stress. So for the most part, not much has changed. Now, Dr. Sott has to be addressed here, because in the second edition rules, Bolians were not present as species that can be played yet.
Right.
So what I've done is I have taken the Warm Welcome species talent and assumed that to be the species special ability. Makes sense to me. If at some later point, inevitably, when Modiphius releases more books, which will hopefully contain more species, because by the end of first edition we had quite a few species that were playable. If and when the Bolian species talent comes in and it's different, we'll change Dr. Sott and maybe throw Warm Welcome back in as a standard talent. We will see how it goes. Nevertheless, what was the next thing I wanted to bring to folks' attention? Ah, yes. role benefits, because everybody who's a main character in this should have a role aboard the bridge, and those roles actually afford you some advantages. So in the case of, let's go with Flesk, he is, where is he? He's operations manager. Therefore, he gets the operations manager role benefit, which allows him to, whenever Flesk creates a trait representing a piece of equipment or an alteration made using existing equipment, any character who benefits from that trait whilst Flesk is present may reroll a d20. Stuff like that. So if you're the commanding officer, you would get the commanding officer role benefit. If you were the executive officer, you would get that. If you're the flight controller, like Madeleine Bonnet is, you get the benefit according to what your role on the ship is. Gurkow has science officer, and of course Dr. Sott has got chief medical officer. So not only do you now have species-related benefits as well as talents that you can call on, you also now have a semi-talent that you can use according to what role on the ship you have. I don't want to get too much into stuff that happens on ship because it's not really necessary for this episode. We're not getting much into how the starship operates, especially not during something like combat, so I'll largely leave that alone. But needless to say, there are changes as well to how the ships operate, but we won't worry about that too much. Everyone good with that so far?
Mm-hmm.
So it's most... Yeah, go on, Mark.
Double check, just because I think it might be an error. I've just got a new talent in my talents list. It just says new talent and it's blank.
Yes, as a result of breadth of study, I do believe was a talent before, and it's now a benefit, so you've got a space for a new talent to choose.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Essentially, what was a talent is now a species benefit, so it makes no sense for you to give up a talent slot that you should have because you've already got the talent for the species benefit, if you see what I mean. So by all means, replace new talent with an actual talent.
Cool.
This brings me back to Dr. Sott, which is, I don't know what the species benefit is yet, so if and when it becomes necessary, then we can fiddle with Dr. Sott's talents then. That's no problem. Focuses remain exactly the same as they did before, as do rolling for things. That still works exactly the same, so, 20 bad, 1 good. I suppose I should mention it. Determination does work a little differently now. Insofar as the way determination used to work was that if you chose to use it, it added an extra dice to your pool of dice that you were rolling, and it would assume to be automatically rolling a 1. That's not how determination works anymore. Determination now, if you spend a point of determination, it will replace one of the dice that's being rolled in your pool and have it automatically roll a 1. So, if, for instance, one character is rolling and chooses to add determination in the previous version, that would be 3 dice. Because you're 2 dice for standard and the 1 for determination. Now, it's 2 dice. Because spending a point of determination means you change one of those 2 dice to being an automatic 1. So that does allow you more dice to aid with. Which is groovy. Whew. With me so far?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a lot of information I am dumping in your general direction, so if I do lose any of you, do let me know. So, values, very big, keep track of them. Talents, for the most part, have remained the same with a couple of tweaks here and there because we're not using challenge dice. You've now got species abilities, you've now got your role on the ship, which gives you something else you can do weapons and such things have their own values. Was there anything else? Determination works differently. Ah, yes! Stress. And this actually brings me to your supporting characters. So join me as we take a little trip to Deck 1. Okay. You may or may not notice that the appearance of some of your supporting characters has now changed, insofar as not everyone now has a stress tracker and determination bar. That's because supporting characters now work a little differently. If a supporting character doesn't have any values whatsoever, and therefore can't use determination, they do not have a stress track. Which means that if they get into some kind of altercation, either social or physical or anything like that, they have no stress with which they can avoid an injury. So if a supporting character, for instance, gets hit by a phaser or a batleth, and they don't have a stress track, they automatically get defeated. Defeated does not mean dead, it just means they're taken out of the fight. Some characters, let's get me a for instance here. Actually, the vast majority. What about the EMH? Aha, the EMH is actually a good example. The EMD, I should say, because he's now the emergency medical drone. The emergency medical drone has only got one value, which means he actually only has half of a stress track. So the EMD can spend some stress to avoid an injury, but not as much as somebody with 2 values or more. Main characters, of course, are entirely different, but essentially you use stress to avoid injuries, and if the amount of damage being done to your character is greater than the amount of stress you have remaining, or you've got no stress at all, that's when you get injuries. And that's when things start going sideways for you very quick. So, as a result, your supporting characters, if they are going to be improved so they don't get taken out in one shot, they will have to feature more in more episodes in order to allow you to upgrade them, as it were, as time goes on. So one thing I do need to mention about the ship. So I'm briefly going to take us back to the landing page again. Just as soon as it loads. I'm going to go to the combs. I'd like you to join me. Now, the whole thing with shields and reserve power and shaken, don't worry about that for now. Neither do we need to worry about scale and resistance. I'm not concerned with that for the moment, at all. Neither am I concerned with the ship talents. That can wait for another time, but again, they're essentially the same as they were before, with a few tweaks here and there because of stuff. What I want to look at is crew support. Now, before, I didn't pay much attention to the crew support trait of any ship, because in the end, the amount of supporting characters we gain during the course of our adventures together is kind of nice, because it kind of fills up the background side characters that we like to bring in. I mean, hell, we wouldn't have had Zonfagor if we paid attention to the amount of crew support. So, now the rules have changed to suggest that crew support as a number doesn't dictate how many supporting characters you have in total on your ship. So the amount of side characters or background characters or supporting crew can be however many we want. But the amount of supporting characters you can activate for use during the course of an episode is now limited to the crew support value. What that means is, if, for instance, we went on an away mission and we took one supporting character, then that's one off of our crew support list, leaving 4 remaining that we can activate during the course of an episode on the combs. Clear enough?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
I kind of get it. I think it's going to be easier when we start.
Yeah, as we
using
go
it.
along, it'll probably become
Yeah.
more and more clear. Now, Captain Sobek and Commander Lian Zhang in a bit of a... And the same goes for Garrow, actually, are in a bit of a funny position because they're technically statted like main characters, but they are themselves supporting characters. So, they're a bit of a grey area, but nevertheless, they still count as supporting characters because your characters are the main characters. You'll be glad to know that I have also updated the Klingon characters to use 2nd edition, so they're ready to rock whenever we come across an excuse to use them. Which sadly isn't yet, but as a result, the Klingon characters will need to keep their own separate personal logs to track their character development if and when those guys appear. But for the moment, since we are still technically in the Klingon Federation War, we are going to be bouncing back and forth for the moment. So, yeah, I think that might do for now, as far as changes goes. If anything comes up, then we'll address them as and when they come up. So if peeps do have questions in regards to the rules, then feel free to, you know, put your hand up and we'll... Because I'm still getting used to them as well, so we're all in this together, as it were, learning as we go. That does bring to mind something I did want to give folks as an aid, which is when they brought out 2nd edition, they actually brought out this handy-dandy little, not cheat sheet exactly, but... whoops-a-daisy, let me get rid of that a second. Copy link, so I can give you something to reference. So I'm going to throw this into Discord. It's a PDF in my Dropbox of basically the 2nd edition rules reference. So it's a neat little, it's a lot of pages, but mostly because it gives the different things that people can do depending on what role they are on board a ship, mostly during ship-to-ship combat. So really, for the moment, the only pages we want to pay any attention to are going to be pages 1 to 4, really. And you can reference those as and when you want. So any of the stuff I've just gone over, or any actions you think you want to take, you can always reference this document here, which I hope you should all have access to. If somebody doesn't have access to it, then speak now and I can try and make sure you do. So if folks want to all check that they can actually access that PDF, that would be smashing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, looks like it.
Cool. Alright. Groovy. Let me think. Anything else? No, nothing that can't be put to one side for now. So, right then. Now comes our episode summary at long last. So, like I said, this is for those who are keeping track via their character notes, their personal logs. This is Stardate 50044.5. We are still in the year 2373, and this is episode 18, titled A Bridge to Everywhere. The Combs has been requested by Admiral Pressman, the same admiral who was responsible for the whole debacle with the Pegasus, has requested the USS Combs venture to the far edge of known space in order to enter into a dark matter nebula known as the Midnight Cloud. The aim of the game was that Admiral Pressman wants to bring a classified, or formerly classified, experimental system back into use, which is the displacement-activated Spore Hub drive, as a new means of propulsion. with the idea being that just like during the first Federation Klingon War, if a ship is able to jump from one point of space to another and be out just as quick, then it obviously affords a great tactical advantage to the polity who has such a propulsion method available to them. Now, when giving you this mission, Admiral Pressman gave you basically a heavily redacted record of events that happened to the USS Discovery, which was the last ship to use a Spore Hub drive. Was somebody going to mention something there?
Just say it sounded like you faded out for me. I don't know if it were the same for the others.
It did for me as well. I was scared. I didn't want another thing of the internet being funny.
Let me just...
cut out a minute.
It cut out? Okay. I'll just keep talking then. At what point did you miss something? What point did I cut out? Hello?
Hello? I can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Folks can still hear me now, I take?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Alright then. Which bit didn't you catch? What bit did I get up to?
I think you just sort of mentioned the fact that it was the Badmiral from the Pegasus.
Right. And that he sent you off on a mission to basically try and recreate the Spore Hub drive?
I think we got that far, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, the Combs' mission is not to recreate the drive itself, but to try and find the organic navigation system that was used, which are a life form known as the macro tardigrades, or just tardigrades for short. They're a life form that is known to frequent the mycelial realm, from which the spores that the Spore Hub drive used as a propulsion mechanism derived from. So Admiral Pressman wants you all to go to this nebula because dark matter nebulae are usually formed when a breach in subspace has happened, and therefore is a likely candidate for where you might find tardigrades. So that's the Combs' mission. See if tardigrades can be found, and if they can, study them to see if we can discover how they navigate the mycelial network, so that it can then be subsequently used by Starfleet ships to try and navigate the mycelial realm. That's also why the Combs has taken quite a few knocks, because travel through a dark matter nebula is not for the faint of heart. So the shields took a bit of a battering, but shields can be re-energized with a bit of work, and thankfully you've taken no breaches to the ship, so, or at least none that weren't repaired. So the ship is now pretty much in as reasonable a good nick as it's ever going to get. So let me take a few things away. Let's move to what we found. So here we are in the heart of the Midnight Cloud dark matter nebula, and this was what you discovered at its heart. What appears to be a breach in subspace. What was that, Mark?
I missed the bit before breach in subspace. You turn into a Dalek.
Oh dear, this isn't going well at all, is it? Dearie me. Just hear myself for a sec. Am I still coming through robotically, or is everything all right?
It's like 95% of the time you're totally fine, but then it'll just cut out for like 3 or 4 seconds.
That's disappointing. So I will just have to keep going over whatever when you get the chance. Is it because I'm running a high usage? No, I'm not. Okay. Alright. Again, technical issues we'll just have to try and iron out as we go. Might be the storm or the flooding, not sure yet. We'll find out. Oh, and for reference, that doesn't mean I'm currently flooded in. Everyone relax. It's all good. Okay. So, at the very heart of the dark matter nebula, an enormous tower of organic mycelial matter emerges from a swirling vortex of subspace distortion. The mycelial construct dwarfs your starship, making it look like a toy. The construct resembles a mammoth tree, with a central trunk growing out of storm clouds of twisted dark matter. Dozens of branches spread out from the central trunk in various directions. Each branch of the construct ends with a translucent bubble of mycelial matter that glows faintly with violet energy. This is where we left things, so this is where we start today's adventure. So, what would you like to do? I'm going to pop us back to deck 1 very quickly. So, you have made it. Now what would you like to do?
Have we, it's been a while since we have we dropped a little scan of that anomaly?
Well, let's have a look-see. Not quite yet, but let's do it. Now then, let's just check Gurkau's Science Officer benefit. When you succeed at a task assisted by the ship's sensors or computers or a tricorder, you may ask one additional question as if you had spent momentum on obtained information. Very, very useful. This does bring up something that I will do whilst we do this next bit, which is scan. So for the ease of, I'm going to guide somebody. Since Chris brought it up, I'm going to have Chris be the combs. So, the place we would usually find the combs is in the actors area on the right-hand side of the tool. If you can find that.
Towards area on the right.
Oh, you cut out again,
I
but
cut out
I
again.
have found it.
You found it.
I've got the character sheet. Yeah.
Cool. So, I've basically hidden away all the first edition stuff in the first edition folder, or previous characters rather, I should say. So, ships, combs, yes, okay. So the combs can assist, of course, using sensors and con in this case. But when you roll the 1 dice to assist, make sure to check using focus. From now on, whenever the ship assists in a task, we assume that the ship has focus.
Interesting.
So it makes the ship a lot more useful. Now in that case, that was an 11, so it didn't roll under con, which is 3. But that's fine, that is 1 success. Now, can we have Gurkau give us a control and science check? And I'm going to allow botany or xenobiology to be your focuses here.
Oh. So, with the asking additional question as if we had spent momentum on obtained information.
Yeah.
Is this the obtain information as in asking you what's there, or is it okay?
You get to
so
ask
if
me a
there's
question.
any question. Oh.
To do with what you've just scanned, and I have to answer truthfully.
Okay, so let's scan. So, using focus, yes to die.
Nice, 17 and 5, really, really good. So, if we go back to the Combs Advanced Sensor Suite, allows you to roll 2 d20 for assistance rather than only 1 when doing sensors. Never mind then. Sorry, Chris, I didn't read that. Could have rolled 2, never mind. But you've got high resolution sensors, which you gain a bonus one bonus momentum from doing this. So let's see, you got 3 in total. You needed 2, so you actually gain point momentum back and more. Boop. What does your scan reveal? The construct is a living organism that exists half within normal spacetime and half within the mycelial network. It seems that the many bubbles at the end of each of the branches house various mycelial organisms. And it's possible some of them could be tardigrades, but subspace distortions emanating from the construct's midpoint make it impossible to be sure. But this enormous structure is clearly the source of the mycelial energy in the nebula. So, any questions that you want to ask? As a result of obtain information.
Does anyone have any pressing questions, or can we just, or do we have any?
If you have no questions, then I can at least reveal 1 or more points of interest that you will get as additional information.
Oh.
I can't think of anything.
Nothing springs to mind at the moment.
Liz?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So, Connie, did you have anything in mind you wanted to ask, or?
No, I think what you reveal will be better than any question I ask.
Okay, let's have a look. Alright, one of the main points of interest will be that many of the bubbles contain individual ecosystems that appear to be optimized for various mycelial species. Most of them contain breathable atmosphere and gravity. Some bubbles, however, are completely devoid of life. So, with that information, what would you like to do?
Avoid the bits devoid of life. If I remember rightly, the ship doesn't have great shields at the moment. One of the things I'd do, lower down the priority, but before we get any closer, is fix our shields.
Yeah, sure, that's no problem. That can definitely be something that can be seen to over time, but for the sake of completion, if we wanted to, as an example, let's see what is involved with regaining shields. That's going to be an operations action, which is regenerate shields. So this is a good example to do it. This requires reserve power, which you do currently have. You reroute power to the shield emitters attempting to restore their strength. This requires control and engineering difficulty 2, assisted by the ship's structure and engineering. Liz, could I ask you to be the combs, please? And we'll get Flesk as operations manager to try and regain shields. Be right back, no problem, Chris.
Quick question. Does the ship count as a character?
Not really. Why?
Oh, just because parent figure now, it's 2 or more other characters are involved in the task. So now it can't just be me plus 1, it's me plus 2. So if I was to drag, say, Tavish in, is that the plus 2 for having parent figure on standby?
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I will ask someone to be Tavish as well.
In that case, if Liz is the ship, then let's have Connie as Tavish.
Alright.
Now this is interesting, because now assisting with a role is a little bit different.
Ooh.
Insofar as you can have one person assist, no problem. Teamwork and assistance. But, if I can find it, where is it? That's recovery, healing, assist. Assist character seems to be not active. Take this action. There was something about it. Let me find the core rulebook. Page 255, because I do believe there is something different to teamwork now. 255, 255, 255. Teamwork and assistance. Okay. You may accept one assistant at no cost on any individual task. However, you may have additional assistants, but each one extra person involved creates the potential for error. Each assistant after the first either costs 1 momentum or adds 1 threat. So, the ship does not count as an assistant because the ship is automatically... You're using a ship system, so that doesn't count. But if you wanted more than Tavish to assist, it would cost you momentum, or you could give me threat.
Ooh. So at the moment, I'm just getting Tavish in, so it's fine. But
Yeah.
above that would be more. Okay. Well,
So,
Which, I mean, he doesn't use threat anyway, so it's like we could just give him all the threat.
yeah,
No,
just
never
give me all
uses
the
it.
no, because then he will use it.
threat.
But I'd rather spend momentum, especially if we've got a full pool. But we don't need to in this instance.
No. So, in this instance, we are just trying to regain shields. So, if I can once again go back. That's Helm Operations. So, from Flesk and from Tavish, so 2 dice from Flesk, 1 dice from Tavish, if we can get Connie to be Tavish. I want Control and Engineering.
I'm using a focus, but there's now focus or dedicated focus.
Yes. So the dedicated focus, some of your like your awards, I forget which one. Is it Starfleet Medal of Honor? No, it's not that one. That does bonus permission. Is it Starcross? I think it's Starcross. Yeah. Starcross doubles your focus range. So if, for instance, you were to use Starcross, that would be when you tick dedicated focus.
Gotcha.
As well as using focus.
Oh.
Ooh.
So on those occasions, I haven't seen it successfully used yet, because every time the other lot tried using it, it always rolled higher than even the double of your discipline. So I have yet to see if it works or not, and if that's what it is. So yeah, if at any point anybody is going to use something to double their focus range, when you do your task, you can check that box for dedicated focus. But for now, we're not doing that.
Cool. Right,
So once again, 2 dice from Flask, 1 dice from Tavish, 1 from the Combs, if you could do that for me, please, Liz.
Ooh.
Burrito, burrito. So that's Tavish. Liz, you able to find the Combs?
What,
Structure and
What am I-
engineering, and remember to check using focus. So the ship always assists as if it's using focus now. Okay. The ship's taking a bit of a battering, so she's not awfully helpful right now. But that was 4 successes overall, which is neat. It was difficulty 2, which means you got 2 over what you needed. Instead of rolling, instead of just regaining set points. Actually, no, it did work like this last time. So the number of points regained from a successful regenerate shields is equal to Flesk's engineering department. Which
What?
is, Mr. Flesk?
Which is my engineering discipline?
Yep.
5.
Is how much? 5. So that regens 5 shields. But because we got 2 extra momentum, which we can't save, we may as well spend them both, and each point of momentum spent adds 2 extra, which means we gain an extra 4.
Nice. That's looking a bit healthier.
Yes. So stuff like that will start using your actual discipline scores as the how well they do from here on. Alright, so that's a good example of slight changes that have happened to bring us to where we are now. So shields are looking good. So, with regards to your next step regarding the mycelial construct, what would you like to do?
Well, we're trying to work out how they utilize it. The tardigrades utilize it. We've
Yes.
scanned and we found out where they are. Does that mean we
Potentially.
want to get closer or send probes to
I
see
think-
what information we can gather on what they're doing before we then go, or well, no, find them exactly and then see what they're doing. We're trying to find out how they use it. And at the moment, we just know where they might be.
You were going to say something.
I was just gonna agree about the probe.
Okay.
I was going to think going straight in, but I suppose that would be unwise.
Okay. Launch probe. Where do I find... There it is, under sensor operations, which is funny because that's what Gurkau does. So you launch a sensor probe in order to study a situation or phenomenon in more depth from a safe distance. Sensor operations major action may determine range from the probe's location rather than the ship. You can probe... So it's basically using sensors once again. So, once again, this time let's have... well, Mark, it's your turn to be the combs.
Oogie.
Sensors and science, and once again, can we get our science officer to give us control in science? Probably still using the same focuses we had before. Botany and or xenobiology.
Perform task, using focus, one dice.
Yep. Nice.
No!
And not so nice.
The Legion of Honor.
Legion of Honor.
Who's
I've got
using
one
it?
left. I'll use it. I've got one left.
Okay.
There we go. I'm all spent.
Gurkau still has 2.
Whew.
Okay. Incidentally, in 2nd edition, I now have a means of cancelling out my complication rolls, so...
No.
Although it is costly. Nevertheless. Okay, cool. So, launching a probe. The probe gets close enough and gives you a more in-depth scan of what you had before, but even so, the proximity of the subspace rift itself is causing some difficulty with regards to getting a definite scan. It does give you back the information pretty much you've already gotten thus far, with the added bonus of that the construct appears to be a colony creature formed from countless individual organisms, all of which are native to the mycelial network. So you've got all the individual basically bubbles, which appear to be different habitats, essentially. And anything and everything living in there definitely appears to be a native of the mycelial realm. It's just a case of... It looks like it's going to be a case of physically getting in there and having a poke around. Which means Captain Sobek, after receiving all of this information and nodding sagely, turns to his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang, and goes, "Very well then. Number 1, it appears you need to assemble an away mission." So,
Cool.
as first officer, Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang gets to take an away team onto the mycelial construct. But she is your character, so don't feel pressed to not to disclude your characters. Basically, who wants to go? But do remember... Exactly. Me! Science! It would probably also behoove to take the dock because biological life forms and whatnot. This is going to be an interesting mission for Flesk when he goes, because it definitely involves an EVA suit. Which is a good point. Dr. Armour. Lian Zhang needs an environment suit, so we give that to her now. So, yep, Dr. Sot, Gurkau definitely wants to go. So, Liz, you have an interesting choice. I'll probably take Tavish, because why not? I mean, who would you like to be, Liz? I mean, do you want to maybe be Garrow? Or do you want Bonnet to go? Or do you want to be Zhang? What do you feel like doing?
Are we teleporting or are we flying the a shuttle?
Well, as far as your science officer has been able to determine, there should be no reason why you couldn't just transport it. The interference isn't so great that you couldn't transport into one of the nearest bubbles.
And Zonvigor is good.
Zonvigor is good. Zonvigor is great. So, yeah, basically the same question, Liz. Who do you want to be? Do you want Bonnet to have one of her first away missions, or we want the captain to go? So do we want Zhang to remain behind and have the captain come along instead?
He needs to have some away missions.
He needs to get out.
He needs to get out more. Alright then, in that case, yes, the captain, being an inquisitive scientific soul, definitely likes the idea of coming along for this one, so yeah, okay. Alrighty. Let's give him an environment suit. Once again, Liz, do you want to be Captain Sobek, or do you want to bring Bonnet along, or do you want to be Garrow? What would you like to do?
I'll be Captain Sobek.
Okay. We'll bring Tavish along because we know how much Dave likes to get Tavish into trouble, so...
Oh yeah, 100%. This is the only way I could be the captain!
Currently. Alright, are we good with that, or do we want to draw from any other supporting characters that you might want to bring along?
Well, we're not going to need to punch him, I hope, so Garrow doesn't need to be come along.
Fair assessment.
Is the the EMD coming with?
You can bring the EMD along if you really want to annoy Dr. Sot. And indeed everyone else. If you want additional medical assistance, because he is now autonomous, thanks to having been placed, not exactly against his will, but accidentally inside of Flesk's drone. So if you want to bring along the EMD, you can bring along the EMD.
Was it really by accident?
Accident insofar as I planned it. But
rather than the EMD, as fun as it would be to bring him on, would Nurse Uro be more apt with his empath? Maybe he can sense how tardigrades feel, and he's got some biology.
Yes, indeed.
Much better point. Yeah.
Alrighty. That sounds like a good reason to bring Nurse Uro along, which means the EMD gets full command of the sick bay whilst Dr. Sot's gone. Alright, so that'll be one off of crew support.
The poor crew.
Yeah, nobody gets sick, for heaven's sake. He's probably going to be roaming the decks now looking for somebody to medically assist. Because he's bored. So, Ensign, what are you doing? Anyway, cool. So we can keep our Chief Helm Officer at the helm. We can leave our First Officer because the Captain wants to have his an away mission that he doesn't get to come out for enough. Instant Aversion, or maybe even, actually, Lieutenant Dufresne could be in charge of science whilst Gurkau is away. Flask leaving Zonvigor in charge of operations, and of course, Ensign Kenson, which I still cannot say without chuckling, could be left in charge of engineering. Cool, are we happy with that selection? Go with yes.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Nobody else you want to add? You've got an empath now, so
Mm-mm.
don't necessarily need Councillor Sachs. Poor
I
Councillor Sachs.
don't think Sax is going to be that helpful. In general.
I don't know. The telepath is part of her. Is literally her Betazoid.
But she's
Species
never
thing.
succeeded.
Her track record isn't great, I'll give you that. Okay, cool. We have now
Cool.
got our away team. So, everybody needs EVA suits. So let's do that. Character armor. Counts as armor now. Environment suit for Nurse Uro. Does Gurkha have one already? Yes, she does. Does Flask already have one? What am I about to say? Sot has already got one. The captain I just gave one to. Tavish has got an EVA suit as well. Nice! Everyone's kitted up and ready. Any extra equipment you want to take? Now, I will say this. They have shortened the equipment list in 2nd edition, mostly because they are leaning more towards using traits. So, as a for instance, if I bring up Gurkha. Gurkha has got trait Artificial Eye, for instance, as well as the trait Roost Eye and the trait Starfleet Officer. Traits, the 2nd edition rules uses a lot more. So you can use equipment in a similar fashion in that they can be seen more as traits to be used to help with a scene or to make things more difficult in a scene, depending on your view. So there isn't as full a list of equipment, because some equipment can just be parsed off as an equipment trait. However, if you go to the items area where you formerly found the equipment, under the blue 2nd edition folder, you should, I hope you can see. That's a good point.
Yep.
Yep, you can confirm you can see 2nd edition. Under 2nd edition you can see awards.
Yes.
Mhm.
And character armor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Character weapons.
No.
No.
Alright, let me change that.
Nope. I see armor and then talents.
I must say, I can't find the anti-grav sled at all in
Well,
the 2nd edition.
That's it. It's such a, it's a thing that could be considered more
I
a
found it.
trait.
Oh,
You
I see
found
character
it?
weapons. Oh.
We don't know how heavy the tardigrades are. If we're taking a sample.
Wow.
Just
Right.
saying.
I see how this is going. Okay. Let me show you some more things like role benefits. Probably want to see those. Space frame, special abilities. You'll probably want to be able to see those.
Be right back.
Yep. Species abilities. Let's give you access to those.
Oh, we had the access to that. Same with tip
Okay,
talents
cool.
and then tools and portable items.
You can see those. Excellent. So, yes, that's your main list of equipment that doesn't come under armor or weapons. I'll say this for 2nd edition. They have added a lot of Starship talents and Starship weapons. There's a lot more different, interesting weapon systems being used now, which is nice because there were a lot of different weapon systems featured by different species during the course of things like Voyager and Deep Space Nine. So,
Yeah,
nice.
we got the Klingon disruptor rifle now.
Ionic clap.
Is there a way to add more weapons to the ship? Because
Yes, there is a Starship talent called. Ooh, what was it? Was it additional? No. Let me go through it. Dedicated personnel, no. Diplomatic suites, no. Dual environments, expanded munitions. You may add one weapon to the ship's profile, an energy weapon or a torpedo type. So, expanded munitions is a talent to add more and different weapon systems. Should you
Yeah,
wish
just
to.
because I noticed the secondary actors changed since
Yes.
we added it. So maybe...
Because there are no more power points.
Yep, we could... Because I've got a medium to spend. Switch that next time.
Righty hosey. Nice.
Thank
So, any hoops, back to equipment. Folks can, I mean, most standard equipment already you have. If somebody wants the anti-grav sled, I say if, it's obvious you do. And the justification of tardigrades are big and heavy, much to my chagrin, does make sense.
Good. I already put it on the captain.
Okay, the captain's got the sled. Okay. Just the thought of a Vulcan going, am I doing this right? Wee! Is that how you do it?
Oh, the time we made the graph sled a freaking go-kart.
Yes, you did. Connie, you were saying something.
I would like to bring. Oh wait, there is no such thing. I wanted to bring a scythe, but I suppose I would say dagger/knife. You know, for botanical samples. And if not, I also have the personal effects talent with change, which means I can bring an uncommon item with a device which is not standard issue, but is nevertheless useful for missions.
Okay, so what I will say there is that a something that you can use is for taking leaf cuttings and stuff like that. Should be any kind of standard botanist equipment. And considering the mission you're on, I will say you can probably take that as a trait.
Okay.
A tool trait. So in your traits section on your character sheet, you can add botanist's knife or something. So you can add that in there as something that could be that's used to help you do botanist-related things. And if we
Ooh.
need to turn it into an impromptu weapon, then we can.
Excellent.
So,
I mean,
there we go.
going to be peaceful. Yes.
Yes, but you know, if you need to stab a bitch,
Yeah. Don't make me. I will, but you know.
I'm not sure I quite like the idea now of Gurkha just wielding this thing in people's faces. Don't make me
It's
stab
fine. It's fine.
Perhaps you should be a little bit more restrained in your use of swinging about that implement, Lieutenant. As he's backing away, holding his hands up. Anyway, let's not dive down that particular mental rabbit hole any further than we have to yet. Okie dokie. Alright, so we've got a bit of additional information, additional equipment there that we have used as a trait, which is a nice example of how we can use that. Anything else? Or are we good?
I think we're good.
We're good, okay. So like I've noted, it is possible to transport over. There's no problems there. So if we're ready, then let's beam on down.
Cool.
This is where you emerge. Right, let's change the ambience. Okay, what do you see? So, you are met with a really diverse landscape, well not landscape, but area, full of healthy fungal forms. The air is saturated with glowing spores that glow in a rainbow of colors. The fungi around you are also of various different, very, very beautiful, glowing colours of all hues. The spores that hover in the air start to settle on you, clinging to your EVA suits and all of your equipment. It's all very breathtaking and very, very peaceful. Scans indicate a breathable atmosphere, should you wish to disengage your EVA suit's helmets. What would you like to do?
I would like to disengage. I'll pay the price later if there will be.
Okay. So, yeah. Gurkau just looks around, takes a good old reading, and then goes, well, breathable, and then disengages her helmet. And she takes, of course, a big lungful, and at first, there's a very heavy fungal smell, so it smells very heavily of damp earth, very, very heady kind of aroma that gets into your nostrils, and of course, there's all these little fungal motes that settle on your skin. But you don't feel itchy from the motes settling on your skin. They're not making you sneeze, they're not closing your throat up. Even if you are breathing them in, they seem to be having no harmful effects whatsoever on you. So
Join me.
As far as scientific methods go, says the captain, that was an interesting one. But far be it for me to put words into the mouth of the character that Liz is currently controlling. And of course, I can probably safely say, knowing Dave and Tavish like we do by now, that Tavish is probably not going to let Gurkau get away with being the only one being reckless, and this also disengages her own helmet. So folks can, if they wish to, disengage their helmets safely and have a good old poke around. Absolutely not, says Fliss. There's particles everywhere! So, yes. What would you like to do?
I think I would like to scan for creatures near and far or any trace.
Okay.
Well, traces of tardigrades.
Yeah, that makes all very much sense. So once again, this falls under your science officer trait, where you can obtain information from me should you wish. So, first things first, tricorders, which means you are using your basic control and science. Check. Anybody who wishes to aid, as usual, you can get one assistant at no cost, but any more than one assistant will cost you momentum.
If nobody wants to assist, I would nominate Nesuro to help.
Okay. This brings up a very worthwhile mention, insofar as Nurse Uro is a supporting character. Not only is Nurse Uro a supporting character, Nurse Uro is a supporting character that is currently not being controlled by anybody, because all of you have characters to control. So the only thing Nurse Uro can do, technically, in any situation, is act by assisting others. So all he can ever do is assist. Can't take actions of his own, unless, of course, a commanding officer uses the direct action to, obviously, directly get them to act. So that isn't it's more to do with combat and stuff with that, rather than this specific case, but it is a point worth bringing up. So, absolutely, Nurse Uro can assist, and since Nurse Uro is Dr. Sott's boy, why don't we have Chris taking control of Nurse Uro?
Can do. What am I rolling? Sorry, I think they
control and science. And
control
let's
science.
But
let's let him use xenobiology.
Excellent.
Cool. And
Which
this was an
means-
assist task, right? So
Yes,
one
this is
dice.
an assist, so only one dice, please. That
I
sounds
don't know
nice.
why it rolled 3.
I am on fire.
Yes, you are. That was 3 dice because Connie and you rolled at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Gotcha.
cool.
Sorry.
It's just that both of you seem to have the same color dice for a moment there. So
Right, yeah. That was interesting.
yes, if you as an interesting side note, if you do want to tinker with the color of your dice and the style of your dice, you can go to on the right hand side. There's a double cog wheel that says when you hover over it, it says game settings.
Shiny.
Oh,
And
yeah.
from game settings, you go to configure settings, and if you can find dice so nice.
Got him.
3D dice settings, you can make them random, which sometimes is absolutely appalling to look at because some of them are leopard print and you cannot read what's on there. Or you
Oh, my
can
word.
choose a specific design of dice yourself if you want to make your dice look a little different.
Oh.
I'll leave that for now. That was a lot of customization there.
It is a lot of, and you can do
My
all
word.
sorts of things like get it to play a sound when you roll a 1 or a different sound when you roll a 20. You can do all sorts of funky stuff with it if you want to tinker with that kind of stuff. But right now,
That's fun.
I'm not gonna, so. Nevertheless, that was 2 successes. So Gurkow has a good old scan around the place. And, yeah, this ecosystem would be an ideal habitat for tardigrades, but suspiciously there are no tardigrades present. Is there a question you would like to ask me using obtain information?
I think if potentially maybe how do we find them? But
Okay.
if
Anybody
you have
else?
any questions, Mark.
Yeah, anybody else have any recommendations?
It's what's around us, life form wise, other than plant and fungal matter and gross particles.
Squishy. Chris, Liz, you got any ideas for what to ask?
I'm good for now, thank you.
Not in particular at this moment.
Okay, so one question was what is around us, and one question was how can we find tardigrades if they're not present. So which question would you like to ask? Which question for you is a priority?
I guess how we find them, right?
That's 2 votes for how do we find them. Liz, you got the deciding vote?
Yeah, I think how do we find them
Okay.
would work.
Alright, we'll go with that one. According to your scans, how to find them is not immediately clear, but one thing becomes clear. The current bubble is attached to the main construct, let's call it, by a branch, and the branch, like all the other branches, according to your scans, are, for the most part, hollow. So it suggests you can move from one bubble to the next by traveling through the hollow points of the branches into the main trunk, and then go from the main trunk into another branch. Curiously enough, the mycelial construct itself seems to generate its own gravity within its bubbles and within the trunks and branches. So, so each branch contains a tunnel that acts very much like a corridor that you can use to travel from bubble to bubble without having to use transporters all the time. There's nothing to prevent you transporting directly using the combs, but there is now that option of using the branches. The central trunk appears to be an enormous tunnel that's roughly 5 kilometers long, with branches connecting at various intervals in different sections, and the entire central trunk, according to your scan, is made of organic mycelial matter that's tightly wound and bioluminescent, and also is producing the breathable atmosphere and, strangely enough, the artificial gravity. So, at the end of the day, there's no obvious way to find out where they might have gone, but it is possible to visit the different bubbles merely by travelling down a branch and moving into a different branch.
So we could end up following them, because that might be how they're moving between each of the bubbles.
Entirely possible.
Do we know if it's safe for people to walk through the tunnels without their EVA suit sealed?
At the
Fine, I'm sure.
Well, at the moment, Gurkhau's current scan suggests that the nearby branch and its link to the main trunk appear to be filled with a breathable atmosphere. But you do have EVA suits if that becomes the contrary, so...
Do we
yeah,
want
you
to
still
have
have
a
options.
quick? Do we want to have a quick look around here, or find a small branch to go in first, or go for the big one?
Your choice. What do you want to do?
I think we should go in the big one.
I guess this is
I'm-
my explore everything personality. So I don't know if the big one leads us to the main story, so to speak. Or will it cut us off?
It's the we've kind of scanned this area, haven't we? We haven't found any tardigrade life forms or anything other than the mushrooms and the branches.
So far, that's correct. So,
Shall we scan inside the branch?
sure.
Either the big, which one we're going in, and see if we can find any kind of traces of anything.
Yeah,
Alrighty
that
then.
sounds like a good plan.
Okie dokie doos. In that case, finding an opening into the branch is not difficult. You just basically scan for it and you find it, so you head off in a particular direction. No one's doing anything like taking samples or anything like that? Just
Do we
content
have
to scan for the moment?
Yeah, do we have any containers to take some of the mushrooms or spores we see around, the smaller ones?
One would assume.
Potatoes, no. But
Yeah,
for
I was
we do also have anti-grav so that we could just throw them on.
Throw in
Oh,
a
yeah,
couple
let's
of
take-
mushrooms.
Yeah, let's get a couple of samples of mushrooms.
Yeah, well, are we sampling them right now?
Yeah,
What could
if we
possibly
need
go
to
wrong?
make space, they don't know. The tardigrades might eat them. They could be bait.
Point. Okay, so I suppose the question now becomes, what and how much do you want to take sample of? How far do you want to go? Do you just want to take a little bit now, or do you want to just maybe grab a, lift a mushroom off of its stalk?
I mean,
Gra-
can't we also just beam a sample to the ship? Or beam samples to the ship?
If you really wanted
Yeah,
to.
can do. Let's take the more serious ones straight to the ship, but then some other ones, so we've got possibly bait for the tardigrades to put on the anti-grav sled. Like some of the bigger ones, we can take it off the stalk and just sort of lay it on there.
Now, when you say bigger ones, there are some pretty, as you can see on the map here, there's some pretty humongous mushrooms of quite
thinking-
extraordinary size. So I'm assuming you're not trying to take one of those like tree-sized mushrooms.
No, I was thinking more like coffee table size.
The ones that you can sit around and pretend you're all fairies at a tea party. Right, I gotcha.
Exactly.
That's fine. Okay. That's nothing that requires a skill check. That's fine. No problems there. I mean, the most that happens is that you choose one that you take a couple of samples here and there and have them beamed up to the combs. So bear that in mind. And of course, anything that you want to just rip up the roots. Obviously, Sobek being a Vulcan, he's got quite good physical strength to do this, and Gurkau being a botanist with botany tools can uproot a mushroom of suitable size in a safe manner that doesn't damage the roots of nearby, or mycelia, I should say, of the nearby systems. That does actually bring me to Nurse Uro and Nurse Uro's empathic sense. Just as you're about to uproot one of the bigger mushrooms, Nurse Uro kind of puts his hand on your hand as he seems to be cocking his head sideways in a fashion that suggests someone who's listening to something or someone who's trying to hear something. And Nurse Uro says, I'm detecting telepathic presences here. I can't make up much, just vague emotions, but there's definitely telepathic communication going on here. And it's happening... And Uro just kind of looks around at the bigger mushrooms. The bigger the life form, the more extensive its mycelia or roots, and the stronger the telepathic communication going on between them. I'm not suggesting there's anything like a living mind going on here, but there's definitely a form of rudimentary telepathic communication going on between all the major life forms in this area.
Did this start when we were sampling?
No, it's kind of like a... I could compare it as like background chatter, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm detecting small impression of hunger, maybe, but that makes sense considering these are very basic life forms and their intention is merely to feed and reproduce. That's the most I'm getting.
Make sure the ship keeps the samples we've beamed up in containment. Let's let them know.
Just in case they fancy making telepathic contact with other people in the crew, and we end up having people with mushrooms on their shoulders dictating their actions.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I've just given myself an idea for a plot there. Let me write this down. Actually, as a slight side note, sorry for the tangent, but I do think I remember reading earlier on this week, I passed a news article that suggested, I think, was it the US military or somebody else that managed to create this little robotic conveyor, I suppose, that was powered by a mushroom. So this mushroom literally had a robot to take it around.
Both cool and terrifying.
Indeed. The mushrooms are getting ambulatory. Anyway, nothing like that could happen here.
Shall we examine the bigger mushrooms before we go into the branch network then? Just see what happens as we get closer.
Are you still
that's a question for
ripping
the
one
team.
up?
Yeah, we're still ripping one up.
Okay. Okay, cool. Fine. That's fine. Nothing seems to happen. Uro suggests that basically what he got was the telepathic transmission between the one that you pulled up and the rest of the, for lack of a better word, network just ceased, which makes sense because now its mycelia are pulled off and it's been taken away from the root system, so there's no more transmission going on from that particular mushroom. But it's still a, considering Gurkau's science expertise, I would say it's still a very intact sample, so the mushroom has been pulled up in such a way that it's not dead. It could be transplanted if it needs be. Just as long as it's not away from soil or some kind of nutrient base for too long, then it'll start to obviously decay and die. Hopefully that answers your question.
All right. I guess then, Gurkal/Connie, shall we go into a small or big branch?
I think I'm ready to go to the big branch.
Want to go to the main trunk? Okie dokie doos. In that case, the first thing you do, of course, is to find the opening, and it's almost like behind a couple of rather large mushrooms that are kind of towering over the whole thing. When you do get there, it's basically almost like a cave opening, but it's more readily apparent that it's still part of the whole same kind of ecosystem. But it's very much aglow with light blue bioluminescence. So it's lit, and sure enough, as you step on it, it's got its own gravity, but it's the tightly wound coils of the the branch's matter that's producing a gravity effect. So essentially, it's you could walk on either the side or the roof of the branch as well, and it would still be able to adhere to it because it's generating its own gravity. So you could all proceed down this tree tunnel, this branch tunnel, not necessarily on the same plane as everybody else. You can walk along it and go up the up the sides or on this what's essentially the ceiling very easily, because the whole thing is producing its own gravity. The moment you do enter into the main branch, of course, when you eventually come to the end of the branch, and pardon me, go into the you come across the main trunk, it's the opening kind of falls away into this long downward, kilometers long descent. But just in the same fashion as happened with the branch, the moment you step off onto the trunk itself, the trunk's walls, for lack of a better word, are producing their own gravity. So equally, as soon as you step off of the branch and into the main trunk, you can still adhere to the walls there in the same fashion. There's a very bright light energy coming from a bit further ahead of you, which suggests the point at which the mycelial construct meets the subspace rift, as it were. Other than that, you can just see a couple of staggered openings here and there that suggest entrances to some of the other bubbles. So now that you're in the main trunk, what would you like to do? Would you like to proceed into a new bubble, or would you like to try and traverse further down the trunk towards the light?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to the light. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, Flesk is just going to be carrying around, making sure it's recorded, the video recording of everything they're seeing.
Right, cool. Leaving the tricorder on. Fair enough, Ski. Okay. So, if you choose to, you can actually kick off into the off of the wall. The gravity is enough that it'll hold you to the wall, but if you launch yourself off of the trunk, the moment you leave like by a foot or so of the trunk's wall, there's no gravity, so you can kind of float in the air, and so you can kick off and use the lack of gravity as a means of propelling yourself along the trunk if you want to.
Flesk is going to do that so he's not touching the alien weirdness.
Okay.
So he's going to be equidistant from all the potential surfaces of contact.
So he's pretty much in the center. Gotcha. Everybody else okay to walk, or are they going to be doing the anti-grav swim?
Oh no, I think the captain would be walking, taking everything in.
Nice. Okay, I like it.
I'm
What
gonna
about
walk as well.
walk as well? Okay, everyone having a nice stroll. Okay, what about Dr. Sott? Or is Chris not back? No, Chris said he's back.
Sorry, I am back. I just had to get the
Unmute
dog
yourself.
sorted a second.
Cool, cool.
How can I help?
It was basically a question of does Sott want to enjoy some anti-grav and just zero gravity, I should say, and float down the trunk, or does he want to walk like some of the others?
He wants to do the anti-grav.
Okay.
Float.
Floating along. So with two floating along and the rest all kind of walking, and folks taking scans as they go, you start proceeding down the main body of the trunk. You pass by a couple of branch openings here and there, but your main objective seems to be the middle of. So, as soon as you start getting close to where the that bright light, shimmering light is happening to, you start getting a warning from your tricorders, which giving this this loud blaring warning saying that the subspace distortion that you're getting close to is approaching fatal levels. There's the possibility of that type of subspace energy causing heavy neurological damage to any life form that approaches. So you could do yourselves a mischief if you went any further. So, what would you like to do now?
Can we scan far enough ahead to see what's causing that?
Sure. Due to the proximity of the fact that this is where the trunk emerges from the subspace rift, it's the subspace energies themselves that would cause this neurological damage. So unless you could find some way of shielding yourself from that energy, proceeding further down into the trunk would be very hazardous. Both Dr. Sott and Nurse Uro would be able to tell you that the kind of neurological damage we're looking at could be very, not untreatable, but would have to get you back to the combs pretty quick smart.
Is this something Flex can modify, the EVA suits? Assuming everyone puts their helmets back on.
You're not sure. It's nothing you've encountered before. You could try, but unfortunately, testing it would mean... Well, I'm sure you can guess.
I'm going to use that less than great value. Can't walk away in this instance, I guess.
Haha.
Whereby I'm going to try and do it to my suit with the doctor on standby.
In that case, I'm going to give you an extra point of determination there from making life difficult for yourself and potentially hazardous.
So yeah, I'm going to try and work out a way to modify the EVA suit to protect against it.
Could the captain aid with curiosity can lead to surprising places?
Yes, that suggests that you want to use determination.
Because he
Or are
sounded
you
interesting.
saying, are you sorry? Let me get some clarification here, Liz. Are you saying you want to aid? You want to aid Flask, but also have Captain Sobek use a point of determination to aid with, or are we saying that he's being drawn to this because of his value?
Drawn to it because of the value.
Okay, cool. I mean, he's not a main character, so we don't necessarily need to make note of that, but okay. He's drawn to help because he is infinite diversity, or cooperation becomes the ideal, or curiosity can lead to surprising places, so yeah. Okay, so the captain, knowing full well that you've got two world class or Starfleet class, galaxy class medical officers present means that you can try. Okay, so Flask can try and do a daring and engineering check. I'm not going to tell you the difficulty, actually.
Oh no.
To try and modify. The captain can assist with invention, I suppose, as a focus. Doing reason and engineering. So, if you could, please, Liz.
Cool. Can I use a focus here? Force field technology, not really. No, not really. Manufacturing or metalwork doesn't seem quite right.
Warp field dynamics
Ooh.
might work, actually.
Warp field. Oh, in which case, if I can do that, I'm going to use the last of my star crosses on this rather silly enterprise.
So remember to check dedicated focus as well to see if we can get this to work.
Okay, so we've got 2 successes already. Do I want to spend the momentum and get an extra dice? Team?
I'm hearing no objection.
Oh, I was on mute. Do it.
There we go. Right. 3 dice using a focus, dedicated focus, rolling.
Rawhide. Now 2 of those are under, and it worked. Before. That's how we do it, folks. 6 successes in total. Okay. Alrighty. So, Flask modifies, with the help of the captain, the EVA suit to try and produce some kind of field that should hopefully prevent, the adverse effects. The only way to test it, of course, is to actually walk into the fire.
Keep me in your sights, Dr. Sott. I'm going to have a walk closer. See what
So,
happens.
almost in a similar fashion to Star Trek: The Motion Picture, where Spock starts going further towards the giant shape of Ilea and tries mind melding with Vija, which, for a science officer, Spock, what were you doing? Nevertheless, Flask is proceeding closer and closer to this energy source. The tricorder is, of course, going nuts. The threat warnings are going off quite loudly. And as Flask gets closer, he starts to feel his sight going a bit wobbly. Things going in and out of focus. Flask's sense of balance is now being seriously affected. There's a sudden flash of pain that goes right through every nerve fiber in his brain, and in order to protect itself, Flask goes unconscious, and somebody's going to have to snag him as he's just floating aimlessly in space, as he's now unfortunately been injured. What injury shall we give you? I'm gonna go
Silver bandage
migraine.
shield. Wait there, what does Silver Shield do?
Silver shield. Silver shield. Now,
May avoid 1 injury for 1 less than usual to a minimum of 1. I don't actually know what that means.
So if we want to avoid an injury, let's go to the reference. Usually to avoid injury, it's stress. You use stress to avoid an injury based on the intensity of the effect, as it were. So if this was a Klingon Batleth that does 3, you would be able to use the Silver Bandage Shield for wounds suffered in combat in order to spend 2 stress to avoid taking that injury, rather than having to spend the full equal amount, which was 3. Now in this case, this is immediately bypassing stress and going straight to your nervous system to create an injury that cannot be spent away, I am afraid.
Okay.
So Flask gets a basically a blast across his entire nervous system that feels like every single nerve is on fire. And like I said, in order to protect itself, the Flask's brain just shuts off in order to protect the higher brain functions, which means he goes unconscious. So it looks like Flask and Uro are up, not Flask, Sot and Uro are up to protect Flask.
Mm-hmm.
Which means I am going to need Flask with Uro's help. If I can ask... Connie, can I get you to be Uro?
Yeah.
As we do a control and medicine with maybe the focus of medical diagnostics. Dr. Sot, we're going to need emergency medicine from him using control and medicine.
Cool. Who's leading this one?
Probably Sot, because Uro's a supporting character.
Oh, that's a bit too much.
That's 2. That's fine. Okay. So Dr. Sot and Nurse Uro get pretty much what I just stated, which was that Flask's nervous system took such a violent hit that it shut itself off in order to preserve the higher brain function and not get too traumatized. So you are able to bring Flask about. Flask, you are able to bring back to consciousness as well, but for the majority, until he goes back to the combs and spends a while getting treated for the nerve damage he's just taken, I am inflicting the injury migraine on Flask, which means anything to do with trying to focus or concentrate or anything like that is going to be really tough to do, because everything now is too bright, too loud. You know, everything hurts that little bit more. It's just, you know, if anyone here suffers from migraines, they know what I'm talking about. Does anyone
It
here
didn't
actually
work,
suffer?
guys. We shouldn't go this way. It didn't work.
But, however, Flask's suit did get a very big reading off of that energy field. And it's possible, maybe, to use that information to try and help find some means of shielding yourself. But right now, it's not obvious how you could use it. At the very least, not with the equipment you've currently got. Now, it's entirely probable that you'd still have difficulty in making something on the combs, because you're still suffering from the, well, lack of knowledge as much as anything else. However, in the brief moment that Flask was conscious and drifting into the subspace distortion field, Flask did catch a glimpse of and a reading of life forms, mycelial life forms, further down in the trunk. Which means the mycelial life forms might very well have their own way of getting past it. You would just need further study of these life forms to try and derive what that might be. So Nurse Uro suggests that if the life forms here have some kind of natural resistance to this neural energy distortion, maybe it might be worth examining some more of the bubbles to see if you can find a commonality, defense mechanism some life forms might be using to get to and from.
That sounds like a good idea. Shall we go down the nearest branch? Oh, no, we should scan it first.
The other small
Breathable.
branch.
Yeah, make sure it's got breathable atmosphere first, because you guys haven't got your helmets on.
Okay. So, the nearest. Okay. You pass by the entrance to one branch, and which one is it? Hang on. That's not the one. That's not the one. Let me find the right thing here. No, where is it? Sorry guys, I'm trying to scan through my notes and I can't find the next one. Aha, okay. So, the next nearest branch you come across does bear signs of mycelial life forms, but it appears that the next area has been subjected to vacuum. So there appears to be some kind of tear in the bubble's membrane that has exposed the whole bubble to vacuum, and as such has kind of flash frozen everything. You could conceivably re-don your helmets and go in and have a look if you wanted to try and do something with that, or you could go move on to another one.
I like the idea of that, because maybe there's a tardigrade that's been flash frozen. That's an easy sample to take.
Thoughts of everybody else?
I do agree with that. So yeah, I think redonning our helmets would
Be a good idea. Okay. So, moving on. Let's go with this then. So there's a distinct, not a lack of colour exactly, but a lack of vibrancy in this particular one, as everything has... There's no atmosphere in here, so there's no floating motes about the place. The fungal life forms have all just kind of stopped, almost like they're in stasis of some kind. There's also no gravity in here, because it's been exposed to vacuum. However, from your position on the floor, as it were, you can make out this tear in the skin of the bubble that appears to be responsible for all the atmosphere being sucked out of it. So it's entirely possible that if you repaired the tear, life could flourish in here again, but that's not necessarily within the parameters of your mission. And as such, if you want to just plain scan around to see if you can find any evidence of a frozen tardigrade, you could do so.
Scan away then, shall we?
Scan away. Okay. So anybody who wants to, once again, of course, being mindful of the momentum cost of too many assistants, would be a control and medicine with any kind of focus relating to life forms or sensor use being appropriate.
Sorry, Matt, you cut out after saying anyone who wants to.
Anyone who wants to scan for life forms can give me a control and medicine check. Anybody who has focuses to do with either sensors or life forms would be applicable.
No xenobiology?
Potentially, yes, because you are looking for tardigrades. So.
Can I use my advanced discipline then instead of medicine anyway?
I see no reason why not.
Excellent. So, I suppose I can lead then. And who else has life forms or anything similar?
I mean, you've got a full momentum pool. If you wanted to have more than one assistant on this, you could certainly do so. More heads means more chance of getting the momentum back.
What do we think?
Apparently nothing. No, go, Chris.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so
Okay.
with somebody like Dr. Sott, it would be control and medicine, obviously looking for life forms. Dr. Sott doesn't have any focuses really to do with life forms or sensors, so it would just be on pure talent alone. Which, you know, there's no small amount of talent there. Gurkha, of course, using science. If you wanted to add the captain or somebody else to the Nurse Uro as an extra assistant, you could, but only at the cost of momentum.
I think, but I think I should lead since I do have a focus. But then Dr. Sott can assist. I don't think we really need to add anyone else. It seems low stakes.
And I'm not
Yeah,
much
I need
use
more
at the
from
moment.
Okay.
Oh,
No
brilliant. No worries.
problemski. Off you go then.
We go. How's that? Is that too light, the colours?
No, that's fine, I can see those.
Lovely. Oh, 2 successes again. Oh my god.
Yes, doing very well. Might not even need the Sott.
Cool. So what am I rolling as an assist?
Control and medicine, please, but with no
Control
focus.
and medicine. No focus. Just
One
talent.
dice.
Here we go.
Just talent.
Oh,
Ooh.
no
Oh.
talent.
No talent.
Okay, so obviously the fact that everything in here is kind of in a frozen stasis doesn't help. Nevertheless, Gurkha has a check around, and sadly there's no evidence of any tardigrade life forms in here. Although, once again, if it wasn't for the fact that this bubble was open to vacuum, this would probably be an ideal environment for tardigrades. Whether the sudden exposure to vacuum was what drove them out of here is not evident, sadly. But once again, the scan indicates that the tear in the skin of the bubble is mostly superficial and could, with some work, be sealed if you really wanted to spend time on it. But if you're more keen to get on and explore, then you get there's a reasonable enough difference in the fungal forms in this bubble compared to the one that you had explored or beamed into before, that you can now grab a couple of samples and use them as a kind of means of trying to establish where the almost like the base genetic code of the mycelial life forms are. How they then branch out and deviate and create different mutations of the same basic life. But again, that's up to you. These are all options. What would you like to do? Nothing much? Okay. Then I will assume we want to move on to the next bubble then to have a look. Would you want to...
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Well, we've not found anything here we can use as a sample.
You can use samples, absolutely. You can take samples, They're not unsampleable.
But they're not. But we've already got similar ones already, so we don't need to
There's
necessarily double
enough deviation in the genetic structure of the fungal life forms in this bubble that taking samples would allow you to have a more broad basis of comparison and thereby fill that potential knowledge gap of what potential resistance factor mycelial life forms have to this subspace rift energy.
Flesh sort of goes, oh, we should get some of these. Just very disorientated, just sort of waving his arm around. Let's get some.
Just broadly sweeps, just some of that over there, and some of that over there. Yeah, Flask is not having a good time. He feels like he needs sunglasses. Not that that would help. But, it's like everything's too bright. So samples can be taken, definitely, but unless you want to do anything more than that, we can move on to the next branch. So, unless there's anything else? Then we move on to the
Yeah,
next
good, I
branch.
think.
Okay, let me just load this up. Find somewhere to put y'all. 1, 2, 3. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody. Alright. Change the ambience. Alright, this place is definitely different. The first thing you notice is that this place is not as vibrant. It's definitely more barren, except it's not like there's nothing here. There are lots of vaguely tumorous-looking growths that quiver as you look at them, scattered throughout this bubble. And they all appear to be coated in a layer of slime.
Grim.
No other life forms appear to be present at the moment that you can see or detect. What would
Take
you
a sample.
do? Take a sample. Alright. So that means actually physically putting your, albeit gloved hand, on one of these tumorous growths and, yeah, pulling at it and cutting at it. So, what happens is, obviously these things are weird and they're really squishy and fleshy. So it yields when Gurkha puts her hand on it, and it's like a case of, oh, if I put too much pressure, this thing's going to burst and cover me in pus or something. And obviously it's slimy too, so there's this good layer of this thick mucus-like substance over it that means that it's actually quite slippery, which means you have to squeeze it in order to try and keep a hold of it, which makes it threaten to burst like a zit. So it's all terribly unpleasant. But just as
We lost
Gurkha...
you.
You lost me?
Just for a moment. The last thing was we have to squeeze it to.
Right, okay. So, in order to try and get it up enough to cut the roots, you have to grab hold of it. And of course it's slimy, which means you can't hold on to it that well, which means that Gurkha has to put a little bit more pressure on it than she would like because it threatens to burst like a zit.
Ugh.
So it's all terribly unpleasant. But as Gurkha manages to finally lift it off to baths in the EVA suit. Dear. Oh, I hope the filter works on that thing. Very few things worse than the smell of vomit. But nevertheless, as Gurkha goes to try and lift this sack of ick up and try and cut it free of whatever's anchoring it to the ground, Gurkha notices a lot of like these small fibers connected at the base that then run apparently into the floor. So if Gurkha wants to continue to cut at it, you can do. Or you can leave well alone. Up to you.
I should probably leave well alone. I know my limits.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So Gurkha kind of stands up and has to flick the snot off of her glove. So it's almost like that scene from Ghostbusters where Venkman's trying to flick off the ectoplasm from his hand. But nevertheless, with that in mind, I can ask anybody who wants to give me a reason and science check, difficulty 1.
I could potentially do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Reason science.
Anyone who wants to join in, like the captain?
Legion of Honor.
Legion of Honor. Okay. Remember to mark that you've used it. I do.
Oh yeah, how do I
that?
do that now?
Would observation count as a focus?
Yes, I would say so. So the captain can definitely help.
Nope, he's too enamored.
He's too enamored of everything that's going on, so we get 1 success overall. Okay. That's no problem, because that's all that was needed. So, these tumorous growths all seem to be connected via these tiny fibers that are apparently running through the bubble's membranes. And according to the... Oh, Elizabeth going to grab some food. Okay, no problem. According to the readings you're getting and the jumps of reason that you're also making, the fibers extend outwards into other bubbles too, and appear to be growing. So, with that information in mind, what would you like to do? So you have a room full of icky tumors.
Can we scan them to see if there's a centralized hub, or are they decentralized?
I would like you, in that case, to try and give me a reason and science check. Difficulty 3.
Oh.
So this would be a good chance to get somebody involved in this as well. Anything to do with icky stuff would be a focus. how you would define icky stuff as a focus, I don't know, but
Even without the migraine, Flesk is not your man.
No. I guess one of the medical staff then. Let's see.
So there's always Uro or Dr. Sot. Who could assist with reason and medicine.
I think it's better to have Dr. Sot assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not sure any of Sot's foci are applicable here, I'm afraid, for the moment. But I will allow... who else was going to be taking this check? Was it Gurkha?
Yes.
So again, xenobiology could count here, potentially. So once again, it's Gurkha and Sot.
Nice. I'm just seeing if I have any talents.
What would I be rolling to assist here?
Reason and medicine.
Thank you.
But like I said, this is difficulty 3, so... Okay, that's 1. So it's now down to Gurkha.
Okay, just having a look. Whether I should... you know what? I'll use a star-cross.
Okay. So remember to tag that you've used it, and remember to not only tag that you're using focus, but dedicated focus.
Is there room for a momentum? We have got a full pool.
You have got a full pool. That's a good point.
Oh. I want to use Starcross. At least, see what it's all about, and hopefully
Oh, you
Mike
can
can see it. Oh.
use both. You just get an extra dice towards the Starcross.
Oh.
Makes a good
So
point.
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna take 1 point of momentum. Now,
Alright.
roll 3 die. Okay, here it goes.
Oh, we got a good
Oh,
one. We got a
oh!
really good
Woo!
one.
Lovely. Whoa.
That is one hell of a. I
Damn.
don't even have words.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, let me get my notes.
All right.
Use plus.
This series of reasonable jumps of logic and analyses of the data at hand suggest to you that these tumorous growths and the slime that accompanies them appear to be some kind of neural parasite which is corrupting the mycelial life forms that once appeared to live here. So, whatever used to live in this bubble has been almost completely devoured, almost, by this parasite, this parasitic life form, which has just left these horrible, tumorous, slimy growths behind as like a byproduct. But the growths do have some kind of root system almost that's snaking out into other bubbles. So with that in mind, what these guys like to do now that they've made this revelation?
Can we work out a way to treat it like a weed killer spray?
Burn it
really,
with
really doesn't
fire.
like this stuff. Is there a way we can kill the, not just shoot at it, but get at its root system as well?
Okay. Considering the sheer amount of, well, the ridiculous amount of successes you got from that task, I'm going to give you this bit of information for free. The trying to track the root system to see where the parasite might have spread out from, unfortunately suggests that there is a point at almost the base of the trunk, which means past that section where there's the subspace rift. That could be where this parasite is emanating from. So all the globular bits of ick that are in here are just the waste byproducts of the parasite after having ravaged this entire bubble. But the main part of this parasite, wherever it is, apparently lives further down in the main part of the trunk, which means in order to try and destroy this parasite, you're going to have to literally get to the root of the problem by getting to the root of this mycelial construct, which means finding a way past having your brain fried by the energy.
Okay, so this stuff might actually be, if not the cause, triggering some kind of response by the mycelial network, causing that brain fog. Huh. What can we get from the samples of these 4 slimes around? Is there a way we can find a way to kill them? Or
Well, that's the thing. The slime, for the most part, and the tumorous growths, as I've already noted, are more waste byproducts.
so it's nothing. Yeah, so it's not like a growth. It's
It's basically parasite poo.
Gotcha.
So as the parasite is infesting the mycelial construct, it's obviously devouring the mycelial life forms, and then just excreting or creating this horrible tumorous growth as an after effect.
Ugh.
Do we want to sample this stuff? It could be useful.
Well, if you want to sample snot, then you can definitely take a snot sample.
I think we should. Flesk does not like suggesting that. But in the name of science, he thinks it's important.
Okay, so he'll just wince a lot. He's already wincing a lot anyway, so he'll just wince more from the mere fact of having to scoop slime and stick it in a container. Gotcha.
Caution, hazardous and gross.
Gross is spelled with all capital letters. Okay. Anything else you would like to do in this particular bubble, or do you want to move on?
Les is very keen to move on, but you know he's going to wait for the team because he can't really go by himself.
Quite. So what about the rest of the team? Liz, Connie, Chris, is there anything else you guys want to do here, or do you want to move on to the next?
I think move on.
I'm intrigued by that black void, unless it's just a feature.
Black
Of the map.
void. Oh, that's just where all this water, this liquid is pooling at the centre.
Oh,
It's just deeper in the middle, and therefore light's not getting through it.
Oh, let's go then.
I like that it looked cool enough that you thought, ooh, what's that? Sadly, it's just a pit full of water. Or at least fluid.
Ugh.
Yummy. Alright. Yes, please, let's leave. Let's go. Alright, the moment you start heading towards the branch of this particular bubble, there's automatically something a lot better about it. Just make sure I've got everybody. There we are. Thought I was missing some people. Which one is it? So we've just done the tumorous growths. Let's come into this one.
Ooh.
Now,
Ooh.
this one is very different. Are you scared, Lieutenant Commander? So the moment you enter this place, this bubble is filled with glowing mycelial life forms, nearly all of which seem to resemble leafy plants. So less mushrooms, more plants. What marks this as different, though, is that the exterior of the bubble itself slowly contracts and then expands again. Almost like a heart or a lung.
Is it breathing?
Well, there's a current of air that seems to be flowing through this place. So if there's anything you'd like to try while you're here...
Should definitely try and find out where the wind and pressure's coming from. So, like, walking towards the
Okay, so
correct.
basically, it seems once again that Flesk's curiosity has got the better of him.
Oh no.
But did we lose Sobek?
No,
am I on
Sobek's
There we
Sobek
are.
was under your token, it's fine.
Taking samples of everything.
Yep, that makes sense. So, you know, you've got plants now rather than mushrooms, so the life forms here have diverted off from what you've experienced so far, which is mostly fungal. But they still do have that, forgive the word, root evolution from basic mycelial organisms. So some of these big leafier plants are actually emitting light from bioluminescence. But of course, more important is the fact that there are air currents moving through here. So as you start moving, let me see, where are we? We are in the leafy plants. I'm gonna have Flask, who's having a walk off just to see if he can find where the main air pressure is coming from. Can I get Flask to give me fitness
Oh no.
and
Oh.
fitness and con, please? Your worst ones.
Fitness and con. I'm not in a good way. I'm going to use that determination. Desperation breeds inspiration. He's
Okay,
puked in his EVA suit.
Yeah, he's not in a good way. And like I noted before, please do note every time a value has come into use in one form or another.
Right, character notes. I'll have that open, ready to edit.
Cool.
Right,
Thank you very much.
and I'm using determination. Roll the dice.
So, yeah, what I should have told you to do, but luckily you rolled 2 on the same dice. From now on, when you roll determination, when you make a roll using determination, knock the number of dice down by 1, because the code that the Foundry runs on for Star Trek still currently uses adding another dice and pre-rolling a 1 to it. So in order to overcome that and still make it like determination works for 2nd edition, just reduce the number of dice down that you're rolling by 1 so that it will add the determination dice itself. But thankfully, Mark rolled 2 ones, which means we can ignore that and just assume it was a 15 and a 1, which is actually not 4 successes, but actually 2. But still 2 successes. So as Flask starts moving forward through the underbrush, the bubble is contracting at that point. No, rather is expanding at that point. And as Flask is moving ahead of the others in order to try and track the current of air, the whole thing then contracts into itself rapidly, and as such the air suddenly blows in a gust. So Flask is not luckily bowled over by it, but he is momentarily pushed back a moment as the air suddenly changes direction and blows at him quite heavily. And everybody else likewise kind of has to duck behind something or hold on to each other as this massive blast of air kind of just roars down the bubble towards you. But other than that, it seems entirely harmless. It's like I noted before, that this place is like one big lung almost filled with plants. Nevertheless, the one other thing that is very obvious about this place is that as the air in the atmosphere in this bubble is moving about, there's also a lot of pollen in the air. Why is the forest farting? Well, quite. But it's definitely an expulsion or a controlled movement of atmosphere, and also a lot of pollen particles seem to be filling the air as it does this.
I guess we should use a scanner to see what's in the area, if there's any tardigrades or anything other than what we've sampled.
Okie dokie. It seems that this particular bubble is pretty much dedicated to using this jet of air to carry pollen from the plant-like organisms on one side of the bubble to the plant-like organisms on the other side, thus allowing plants to pollinate one another. And this is working very well to ensure successful reproduction of these mycelial plants. So as a result, this place is full of such life forms. The air jet remains strong enough to throw anybody who's not paying attention across the room almost, if you get to point to where the jet, the point where the bubble contracts into itself in order to propel a blast of atmosphere. But luckily, the vast majority of the big leafy plants in here actually make for a very nice soft landing. Other than that, a good scan will reveal that once again, like I've already intimated, that all these plant-like life forms still derive from basic mycelial life forms. It's just that they've mutated and have literally branched off to being leafy plants rather than fungi. Sadly, still no sign of any tardigrades. So, what would you like to do now? Would you like to carry on into the next?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Fleska's had enough of being blown around. He's not enjoying this mission.
It started off so well, and then slime and headaches, and literally being thrown about the place. Okay. Everyone just appears in a clump. Let me declump, folks. There we go. Okay. Okay. Proceed to the next bubble. This bubble teems with mycelial life of all sizes and colours, and has a breathable atmosphere. Anybody who chooses to take their helmet off in order to sample the air finds it entirely safe to breathe. And it smells faintly of floral fragrance, which appears to be coming from a patch of giant plant-like organisms, like these scattered around here, that resemble, in some cases, enormous rainbow-coloured flowers. What draws your attention, though, is that squirming around on the ground at positions like here, some over here, are a load of large fuzzy insects. First such life forms you've encountered so far here in the mycelial colony creature.
Oh, the foundry's crashed for me, so I'll have to reopen.
Oh, okay. Probably because it's trying to play a good many insect swarms. For which I apologise if that's creating problems. Let's just see.
It might just be me.
Oh yeah,
Might
it doesn't
just
like
be
it if I
us,
zoom out.
So, rainbow-coloured plants and lots of fuzzy insects kind of squirming along the ground. What would you like to do?
Scan and sample.
Okay. So, scanning the flowers, once again, you come across the same thing you experienced in the last bubble, which was these are the same kind of mycelial life forms, but they've evolved more plant, more flower-like fashion. But the bugs are something you haven't come across yet. So if you want to conduct a scan of the insects, then I will ask for a reason and medicine task from anybody who wants to conduct a scan of the insects. Actually, taking a sample of the insects is not difficult because they are all just kind of writhing about on the floor. They look almost like furry beetles. So you can just as easily pick one up and dunk it in a test tube or a plastic container.
That's all right. We'll do that.
Mhm.
So once again, reason and medicine if you want to scan the insects. So anything to do with insectoid life forms, that kind of thing. This is only difficulty 1, so anybody with a reasonably good medicine skill should be able to, or a medicine discipline I should say, should be able to do this. And once again,
Oh
you
well,
have
sounds
to
like me.
Yep. Makes sense to
So-
Dr. Sott.
Mm-hmm. Medicine, and what would I be doing for the attribute side?
Reason, please.
Reason,
reason
medicine,
and
and then any focus?
Do you have any focuses to do with bugs?
Focus scheme. Not really.
Okay, then it'll just have to be
Cool.
talent. which you apparently have in spades.
Ah.
All right. These insects are all actually very easy to pick up because it seems that they've been sickened by ingesting a toxic substance.
Interesting.
Can we see if it's the same stuff that was being pooped out by the infection?
Ah. Anybody who wants to try can give me an insight and science at difficulty 2. Again, anything to do with, like, diseases, parasites, those kind of organisms. Viruses, maybe, so that suggests Uro can assist. But whoever's got a good insight and science could potentially do this. Obviously, the captain's got insight 9 and science 4.
Dr. Sot has got insight 11 and science 5. Put
So
me out of the job.
It would
I'm a
make
thoughtful
sense
boy.
that Dr. Sutton, maybe the captain, would do this.
And we've got full momentum.
Yep.
Mm.
So, if Dr. Sott has got the biggest insight here, not that he's bragging, but he's got insight that goes all the way up. No focuses for Dr. Sott, but Liz, if you could give us insight and science from the captain. With the focus of investigation or observation, that would make sense too. Ooh, a nice fiery dice there, I like it. Right, so no successes from the captain, unfortunately. Insight and science from Dr. Sott then, please.
Thank you. Insight and science. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello, hello. Here's all the insight. Alright. Dr. Sott has a look around and actually manages to realize that the rainbow-colored flowers themselves appear to have become infested with that same parasite, which has caused their nectar to become toxic. And apparently these insects feed on the nectar. Now, with that extra success on top of what you needed... Actually, no, it was difficulty 2, so it's exactly what you needed, so I won't give you anything
We
extra.
lost him again. Yeah, we lost you again.
Oh,
After
sorry.
nectar.
So, yeah, that's basically it. The nectar has become toxic,
Oh.
thanks to the parasite. And the bugs feed on it, so... that's what's making them sick. However, you reckon if you wanted to, you could probably help these insects by synthesizing the proper nutrients that the nectar should be giving. Purge the toxins from their bodies.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, because then we can hopefully learn a bit more about what this stuff is.
Alrighty. In that case, control and medicine will be required to synthesize the proper nutrients to give to the bugs. And then, of course, spray it liberally about the place so that they can consume it. So anybody who wants to do it. I can't think of anybody who's got a focus of insect nutrients, so this is going to be by taking anybody who wants to take it. But control and medicine to synthesize the proper nutrients using a hyperspray or other such medical equipment. So whoever wants to do it can also be aided by Nurse Uro, of course.
Dr. Sott?
That would have been me again, wouldn't it?
Mark, could you be Nurse Uro?
Yep.
Backing up the dock as the medical team goes to start helping the little insects.
Cool. Cool. So, what am I doing this time? Is it gonna be science and something?
Control and medicine, actually.
Control and medicine. Beg your pardon. And nothing to do with insect focus.
I'm afraid not. Same goes for
Xenobiology?
Not in this case.
Okay.
Talent alone. Because this is more, this is kind of a cross between botany and... what do you call it? Study of insects?
Entomology?
No, that's how words and things are derived.
No, it's
usually, but
etymology, isn't it?
That's
It's very
etymology.
close.
Oh, is it? Pardon
Yeah.
me. So you might actually be right there then.
I think
Oh, yeah.
etymology and entomology are the two, and then one is one and one is the other.
Either way, you scored 3 successes in total, so you got way above what you need. So the medical team are more than successful in synthesizing the proper nutrients. So this actually, you see the results within the space of minutes. The insects recover brilliantly. As soon as they start feeling better, they actually, a lot of them, take flight, unfurling their little wings and start to take to the air, and they actually fly out through the very branch entrance that you entered into this bubble from. So, with that information on the insects, you are now actually that much closer to deriving a potential solution to the issue of trying to get past the subspace warping effect, I suppose you could call it, that it has on your nervous system. Because evidently these things reckon they can travel about the from bubble to bubble, so they would be definitely good candidates to examine for some kind of natural defense. So you're getting in better stead now. The puzzle pieces are coming together. You're still missing a few bits, though, to try and get to the bottom of where in the mycelial lifeform's genetic code lies the answer to this defense you need. But that just means more exploring.
New bubble. Let's hope it's not gross.
So, anything else? More bubble. Okay. Actually, where do I go? I will pop you guys by there. We lost. We got the captain. There's Gurgao. Alrighty. So the trilling of insects kind of dies away as you enter into another bubble, and this one this isn't the one I was looking at. This one appears to be full of large and exotic fungal specimens, so even though the one you beamed into at the start, and even the one that was exposed to vacuum, had some pretty good, fairly impressive fungal specimens, they are nothing compared to the size of some of the ones in here. They've grown to the size of, in some cases, skyscrapers, right up to the edge of the very membrane edge itself. So there are lots of very exotically coloured fungal specimens in here. So far, though, with a scan of the tricorder, still nothing that suggests tardigrades. Although the reason for that, well, might already be somewhat clear. Nevertheless, you think one of you just spotted movement up in this area.
Ooh. Scan.
Scan is so far revealing. What you managed to discern when you entered into this bubble, which was massive fungal life forms and a profusion of them. But there was definitely, I'm going to say, Tavish definitely caught movement going on in that direction. And now others are looking in that direction. You think you catch a glimpse of something potentially moving in the, for lack of a better term, undergrowth? But you're not sure.
What can we tell about the fungal growth here that's different to the other areas that would maybe be more attractive to, say, a tardigrade?
It's tough to tell overall. It's just that these are different and more exotic types of mushrooms and fungal life forms in here. So, once again, it seems like in this particular bubble, they just appear to... There's a lot of very brightly coloured mushrooms in here. A lot of bioluminescence is going off in lots of different shades. But overall, without a necessarily very, very detailed scan, there's nothing here that suggests... I mean, obviously different genus of fungal plants, even though both of those words are not necessarily... Never mind. I'm being pedantic to myself now. Happens, actually.
I'm guessing Sobek is thoroughly sampling everything.
Oh yeah. There's still plenty of genetic deviancy from the others to suggest that there's stuff worth taking, samples worth taking here. But there's still that nagging sense of just in your peripheral vision something moves somewhere up here.
Laskin is disoriented and poor decision making is start to walk towards to try and get a better view. Not all the way, but trying to get a glimpse, better light.
Oh my god.
Anybody going with?
Oh yeah, I'm going. Flask needs lefty and righty.
It's as you start proceeding in that general direction. I mean, Nurse is going to stick with Captain Sobek. Dr. Sott's just having a look around. Tavish is probably immensely bored at this point because there's nothing even remotely requiring her engineering skills. So she's just looking at pretty fungal life forms. But whilst Gurkow and Flask are heading towards where that motion was going on, all of a sudden, as you...
We lost you... Oh. Sorry, we lost you after Gurkow. You said Gurkow and then blank.
All of a sudden.
Dang
all
it.
of a sudden, blank. Oh no!
All of a sudden, blank. As Gurkow and Flask proceed a bit further up, there is definitely movement, and as you both proceed on, a group of Klingon warriors jump out from behind the undergrowth,
hell!
brandishing their bat'leths, and cry, "For the Empire!" as they all wield their weapons and charge. And that is actually where I'm going to finish for today.
Man, where's Hopkins when you need her?
So I know we're finishing a little bit early, but nevertheless, that is a good point to stop. Leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger. So, yes, you haven't found tardigrades so far, but you've now found Klingons?
Did they kill them all?
Oh dear. If that's the case, then blimey. But nevertheless, yes, that is unfortunately we will be leaving it for today. So, a good portion of the first part, of course, was given to outlining the difference between first edition and second edition rules. So we are still going to be fumbling along with that, getting used to it together as we go. Now, this does actually bring up a nice little point that I failed to mention earlier, so I'll bring it up now, which is, and hopefully I won't cut out, that if at any point we all feel like we prefer a rule or something as it was before, don't feel that we can't do that. So if after using certain second edition rules we feel that we like things better than they were previously, we can still revert back. So don't feel beholden to the fact that we have switched over to 2nd edition rules. We can always switch back if we want to. So for the moment, this is a feeling out period. Who knows, a combat might actually get us a feel for how it works, how it'll work now, but we don't really have much time left for a combat, so I have to save it for next time. But yes, so far not much that suggested much of a difference, a couple of things here and there, but overall not much that has given us a striking reason to say, oh yeah, this is definitely 2nd edition now. A couple of things here and there, but nothing much. So, in the meantime, I am going to say thank you very much to my players, as per usual. That was great. A lot of exploration going on. Yes, I know Sot and Gurkau were basically the two MVPs here, but you're going through a mycelial realm that you've never encountered before, so the science and medical teams are going to basically be having a field day here. But now we got Klingons. Oops-a-daisy. Who knows what else will happen. So, thanks to those who have tuned into the stream. We hope you enjoyed it. If you are tuning in to this on YouTube, and the sound actually worked this time, then we hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did like it and you fancy giving us a like, that helps videos, not just ours, but others who do actual plays of role-playing games and of Star Trek stuff in general help with our Lord and Master, the algorithm. So feel free to do so if you wish. In the meantime, we ask you all to live long and prosper and do like the Vulcans do, which is definitely volunteer to go on fact-finding discovery missions, because you never know what awesome stuff you might find. But also to engage in infinite diversity and infinite combinations. We hope that everybody gets treated with and treats others with the amount of respect you and love that and care that you deserve. And we will hopefully all keep each other safe until we see each other next time. In the meantime, hailing frequencies are now closed.